All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the Islamic worldview to explore some of the biggest questions we all ask. Why are we here? What happens after we die? We're going to look at the answers found in the Quran and authoritative teachings. So, let's get right into it.
So, where do we even begin? Well, we're going to trace the journey of the soul, right from the very start. And that means tackling the biggest, most fundamental question of them all. Why do we even exist in the first place?
Okay, so Section 1, a universe with a creator. Now, before we can even ask why we're here, Islamic teaching says you got to start with a different question. The idea is, first, you look for evidence of a creator using two main tools, your own reason and revelation. Understanding who made the universe is really the first step to understanding why it was made. And one of the first rational arguments you'll come across is actually, pretty straightforward. It basically says, look, things don't just pop into existence out of thin air, right? And since the universe had a beginning, which, by the way, modern science pretty much agrees on, it must have been caused by something outside of itself. And what's fascinating is that this isn't some new philosophical argument. The Quran itself lays out this exact line of reasoning. It literally asks you to think it through. Did we come from nothing? Nope, that's impossible. Did we create ourselves? Well, that doesn't make any sense either. So through this kind of logical deduction, you're pointed toward an uncaused first cause, a creator. Okay, so building on that first point, the next argument kind of zooms in a little. It's not just about how the universe began, but about the incredible mind-boggling order we see everywhere. Think about it. From the force of gravity being just right to the perfect conditions that make life on Earth even possible, the argument here is that this kind of fine-tuning points way more to deliberate design than just, a cosmic accident. And this is a theme you see all over Islamic scripture. Nature is presented as this giant open book, and it's filled with what are called ayat, or signs. The perfect orbit of the planets, the water cycle, the insane complexity of a single living cell. These aren't just random facts. They're seen as clear signposts pointing to a powerful and intelligent artist behind the whole masterpiece. I love this next quote because it brings all these huge cosmic ideas right down to earth. It's the logic of a Bedouin Arab. It's so simple. The camel's droppings testify to the existence of the camel. Of course they do. So, a sky full of stars, a planet with paths to walk on. Doesn't all of that point to someone who is kind and all-knowing? It's just common sense, right? You see the effect, you infer the cause. All right, Section 2, our purpose on Earth. So let's say we follow that logic. We arrive at the idea of a creator. Well, the next question just hits you, doesn't it? Why? Why did he create us? And the Quran gives a very, very direct answer to that question. It says, and I did not create the jinn, and jinn, by the way, are described as beings created from a smokeless fire, and mankind except to worship me. But hold on, because that word worship is key. It means a lot more than what you might think. And this is really the heart of it. In Islam, ibadah, or worship, isn't just about praying or meditating. It's this all-encompassing concept. It means that pretty much any positive action you do, being honest at work, taking care of your parents, even just smiling at someone, all of that can become an act of worship. The key is your intention. If you're doing it to please God, it counts. This is a huge shift, right? It's not about separating religious from normal life. It's about making your entire life a form of devotion. So how do you actually live out this purpose? Well, it's supported by these 4 interconnected pillars. It's not just about your personal connection with God, which is ibadah. It's also about striving for ihsan, which is like excellence in everything you do, perfecting your character. It's about adl, or establishing justice in the world. And it's about ilm, which means constantly seeking knowledge to better understand, everything. And that brings us to another really central idea. This life is a test. All of it. The good times, the bad times, all the ups and downs, it's all part of a trial. Now, the point isn't to inform God. He's described as already knowing everything. The test is for us. It's a chance for our own actions to show what we're really made of, to reveal who truly tries to be, as the Quran says, best indeed. Okay, Section 3, the journey after death. So what happens when this test is finally over? According to Islamic teaching, death is not the end. Not at all. It's more like walking through a doorway from this temporary phase into the next one, the permanent one. And the sources get really specific about this. They describe the actual moment of death as being a completely different experience depending on how you lived.
For a righteous person, they say the soul leaves the body gently, peacefully. It's met with a beautiful reception. But for someone who is a transgressor, it's described as a harsh, painful, and frankly terrifying process. So after death, the soul enters this intermediate realm called barzakh. Think of it like a waiting room. And in this state, it's believed that two angels, Munkar and Nakir, come and ask the soul three fundamental questions. Who is your Lord? What is your religion? Who is your prophet? And based on those answers, the soul gets a sneak peek of its final destination, either a window of comfort looking into paradise or a glimpse of the torment of hell until the final judgment. So, on to Section 4, Judgment and the Hereafter. Because that intermediate state in the grave, that's just a prelude. It's not the main event. The main event is the final ultimate accounting for every single person who has ever lived. And this is what's known as the Day of Judgment, or Yom al-Qiyamah. It's the day when all of humanity is resurrected. And on this day, perfect, absolute divine justice is served. Every single thing, every action, every word, every secret intention you ever had is brought out into the open and weighed on a divine scale. Nothing gets missed. And after that final judgment, everyone is sorted into one of two eternal homes. There's paradise, or Jannah, which is the promised reward for those whose faith was backed up by good actions. And then there's hell, or Jahannam, which is the ultimate consequence for those who rejected that faith and chose to live a life of wrongdoing and injustice. When you read the descriptions of paradise, or Jannah, they're filled with these incredible images of pure bliss. Gardens with rivers of milk and honey flowing underneath. But it's way more than just physical pleasure. It's the promise of an end to all pain, all sadness, all fear. It's being reunited with your righteous loved ones. And most importantly, the ultimate reward, the peak of it all, is described as being in the very presence of God and seeing his face. Okay, Section 5, Living a Meaningful Life. So we've gone through this whole journey, right? From creation to the final destination. This brings us to the most important question of all. So what? How does knowing all of this detailed map of the universe and the afterlife, actually change how you're supposed to live your life right here, right now? There's this prophetic teaching that just perfectly sums up the whole mindset. It goes, work for your worldly life as if you will live forever, and work for your afterlife as if you will die tomorrow. You see the balance? It's not telling you to reject the world. No, it's saying you should build, learn, and contribute like you've got all the time in the world. But at the same time, you should have the spiritual focus, the moral urgency of someone who knows that their time could be up at any second. So when you put it all together, this life finds its true meaning. It's not the final destination. It's the journey to the destination. It's this precious, limited time opportunity you have to grow, to help others, and to prepare for what's believed to be a permanent, eternal reality. Every single moment becomes a chance to invest in that future. And that leaves us with one final big question to think about. If you really took on this perspective, if you really saw every choice, every action, not just in the context of your 80 or 90 years here, but in the context of eternity, how would that change things for you? Seriously, how would that shift what you find important, what you spend your time chasing, and how you treat the people around you every single day? It's a pretty heavy question, but one worth thinking about.